Congratulations to the Minnesota Vikings and the Seattle Seahawks advancing to the NFC Divisional Round next weekend. Vikings, the 6th seed, going to New Orleans. Shock the Saints, that who many, including myself, saw possibly going to the Super Bowl before these playoffs started. And the Seattle Seahawks, whether the Carson Wentz injury was the reason or not, they are able to secure the victory, go into Philadelphia, a hostile environment, and get the win. They will advance as well. So the Seahawks, they're going to play the Packers. Vikings will play the 49ers. What's going on, guys? Make sure you're in that comment section. Let me know your opinion on the game. Actually, I should put this up. Let me know your opinion on the games today. More specifically about the games today. I will mention the games that happened yesterday if you want to talk about them. But yeah, just comment your opinion on the games. Comment any questions you have regarding the, more specifically today, Eagles, Seahawks, Vikings, Saints. And let me know in your opinion early on the divisional round. Like, what do you see happening? How do you think these teams match up? Who do you think is going to win those games? So let me know. Also, if you are new, make sure that you do subscribe to the Bottom Line View for more NFL live reactions after every single NFL playoff game. Whether it's a recap or a reaction, I'm covering every game. And do Gronk spike the like button to support the channel. All right. So, Seattle wins. Vikings win. Like, where do I even start? Like, I don't know. This playoffs has been really incredible. I think it's been a really good playoff so far. Every single game has been close. Typically, specifically on Wild Card weekend, we usually get at least one blowout. Like, this has been a wild card where we haven't gotten a single blowout yet. We haven't gotten a single blowout in the playoffs yet. Even with Carson Wentz going down, there was no blowout. The Texans won in overtime. The Vikings won in overtime. The Titans basically won by a point, then got a pick six at the end of the game. So all these games have come down to the wire, and it's been exciting, the wild card round. Let me know what you guys think of the wild card round so far. I think this has been one of the better. I think this wild card round has been the best of the last few seasons that I can remember, and I hope that the divisional round is just as good. We're bound to at least get one blowout here over the course of the playoffs, but so far so good. We've had every game's been competitive. You know, I would say that the Seahawks Eagles game was probably the worst of all of them for the quality of the game, but at least it was close. At least it was down to the wire, and even with 40-year-old McCown in the game, it still remained that way throughout the game. So that was nice to see. Let's start off with that game. Let's start off with the Seahawks and the Eagles. The Seahawks win 17-9. The Seahawks were pretty much in control of the game for the most part the entire time. It was 3-3 in the second quarter at a certain point, and it was tied. Then the Seahawks went down. They scored a 5-yard touchdown from Marshawn Lynch. Impressive running there by Marshawn Lynch. Third quarter made it a little closer, 10-6. Then they had that big explosive touchdown to DK Metcalf, who had a monster game. More on that in a bit. And then Jake Elliott with the field goal. But other than that, I mean, the Seahawks, I think, were the better team, regardless of the quarterback that the Eagles had. I think they were the better team. I think they do deserve to move on. It would have been a way better game, though, in my opinion, if Carson Wentz was playing. And I almost wonder what the game would have turned out to be if Carson Wentz was playing. It kind of just sucks from a football fan perspective that we weren't able to see Wentz versus Russell Wilson, just in general. I wish I could have seen that. So, Russell Wilson, 18 for 30, 325 yards, and a touchdown. I think Wilson had a really good game here. He played really well. He made the throws when he needed to. He made the runs when he needed to. He had 9 rushes in this game for 45 yards, right? I don't know if that actually counts with the kneel downs, but nonetheless, 9 rushes, 45 yards. And I really felt like Russell Wilson was doing more with his legs today than he really has all season. We see Russell Wilson escape pressure, escape the pocket, a lot. Over the course of the season, we've seen it a lot. But he was really running away from the defense and really taking what the defense was giving him in this game a lot more often with his legs than we see typically. He was also making the throws down the field to specifically DK Metcalf, a couple to Tyler Lockett. Lockett had 4 catches for 62. Metcalf had 7 for 160 and a touchdown. This guy was picked in the second round. What was this guy, like the 5th receiver taken, 4th receiver taken? That's ridiculous. I mean, DK Metcalf is a monster. A lot of people thought he should go in the top 10, and he falls all the way to the second round and has arguably been the best receiver on the Seahawks this season. There was a moment early on where Tyler Lockett was playing really well, but really ever since like week 10, DK Metcalf has become the number 1 receiver, number 1 target for Russell Wilson, and he had a massive game in this one. So I credit DK Metcalf. He's just a beast, man. He can run, he's strong, he's physical. It makes it almost impossible to press him at the line because he combines his incredible speed with great strength. And, you know, DK Metcalf is almost like Josh Gordon profile, but without the weed, right? DK Metcalf had a great game, and, yeah, incredible performance. I thought he was the player of the game. Russell Wilson played great as well, but I think DK Metcalf, without his big plays down the field, his ability to go by the defense, they don't win this game, regardless. But Wilson, there was a couple times, there was a big run on 3rd and 15. Huge run in the game. It didn't really go anywhere on that drive, from what I remember, but it was such an awesome run. He escaped a couple tackles. And the funny thing with Russell Wilson is almost like, even when he's running and he's past the line of scrimmage, it almost seems like he's still looking down the field to throw. Like, he doesn't actually take off full speed. It's kind of funny that way at this point with Russell Wilson. But he made those plays with his legs when he needed to. And that throw, the pretty deep ball to DK Metcalf to seal the game was huge. Throat. Travis Homer, 11 rushes, 12 yards in this game. Did nothing. We knew the Eagles were good versus the run. They showed that. Marshawn Lynch, 6 rushes for 7 yards. Nothing. Had a touchdown. His touchdown was the longest run of the day, 5 yards. Homer had a 12-yard carry. And other than that, they were going backwards all day long. So all of the offense was on Russell Wilson's shoulders. And that's what a truly elite quarterback does for you. You know, he carries an offense. And he carries it with no run game. He carries it when his players are out. He carries it when his receivers are not there. Maybe he has limited talent around him. But that's what's made some of these great quarterbacks in the past. And that's also what Russell Wilson was able to do. You know, they only scored, 17 points. But still, at the same time, he came up with the plays when they needed the plays. And the defense played well enough. I mean, they played one of their better games of the season. They had, how many sacks? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sacks today. Pretty good, if you ask me. There was pressure. Really nothing down the field for the Eagles. And again, it's hard to know how this game would have unfolded with Carson Wentz. Wentz was 1 for 4 for 3 yards before leaving the game. He really didn't even get to play a quarter before he left the game. He got hurt on a scramble, if you missed it. He got hurt on a scramble. Jadeveon Clowney hit him on the head. Kind of was trying to dive over him. I don't think it was intentional by any means, but it looked a little dirty to me. I don't know. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't call that, but it is what it is, I guess. McCown actually came in and played admirably to me. I mean, he played pretty well for a guy that probably wasn't getting many reps during the week or over the course of the last month. As a quarterback who's well past his prime, has already retired a couple of times, and basically only came back to be like a extra guy on the sidelines to help the other quarterbacks out. He really didn't come back to be put into a playoff game. I mean, he's only really there to be the extra hands, maybe helping Carson Wentz out on the sidelines, going through some of the plays. He's almost like a mentor to the quarterbacks, to the rest of the offense. Not really expecting to go into a playoff game and play, but that being said, he played well. 18 for 24, 174 yards. He made some throws. He made some runs. He was escaping pressure and a lot of times being able to make, at least getting rid of the football before he was able to be sacked. He was also sacked 6 times in the game and relentlessly came back after being sacked and still made the throws, wasn't flinching in the pocket, took the hits, made the throws. So McCown played a good game. And I credit him a ton. I credit this whole Eagles team, man. This Eagles team, they're hurt. Their quarterback's gone. Their receivers are gone. Their running backs aren't there. I mean, their defense is hurt. Everybody. Lane Johnson's hurt. They had so many injuries. And they still, down to the wire versus the Seattle Seahawks. And the Seahawks had injuries as well. I'm not trying to say that, but to play a game where you're already down all of these guys, and then your quarterback, your best player, gets hurt in the first quarter, and you still play this game down to the wire with full health, with full heart, full heart. You play it with full heart, you play with full passion, and you still almost win? That to me speaks to the character of the Eagles. Because a lot of teams, being this injured, would just say, oh, you know what? We're done. We're done. Pack it in. I don't want to get hurt. Let's just go home. Let them win the game. We're not going to win anyways. We have McCown at quarterback. He hasn't practiced all week. We have no chance. A lot of teams would do that. All right? I've been there, right? Like, you lose these players on your team. Something happens in the course of the game. And they still are able to fight through it, and they're still able to come through with a good performance and make this game competitive and be there down to the wire. So that speaks to me of the Eagles' character. That's crazy because I think a lot of teams would have given up. A lot of teams would have packed their bags and moved on. Instead, the Eagles, despite losing Wentz in this game early on and having all those injuries coming in, fighting through injuries, a lot of the players. I mean, Zach Ertz is fighting through an injury. He's playing. And they're still able to make it competitive. So credit the Eagles. We know the Seahawks won the game, and the Seahawks deserve to win the game. But at the same time, the Eagles, for their heart, you got to give them credit for that. KJ Wright, Bobby Wagner, those linebackers stood out today as good players on the defense for Seattle. McDougal led the team in tackles with 8, had a sack in this game. Clowney was a beast in this game, had a sack, made some big plays versus the run, versus the pass, getting after the quarterback. Jefferson had 2 sacks. I actually thought that Seattle came with some nice stunts up front. They came with some nice blitzes when they needed to. I was actually impressed with what they were doing defensively to get pressure on Philadelphia, who is a good offensive line. Now, they were missing Brooks and Lane Johnson, so it's a little different. They had a couple backups in there. But nonetheless, they did come out with some more pressure than they typically do, and they did at least supplement it with, like, helping it out with some different creative stuff. A lot of the time, Seattle, they come out, they play the same defense over and over again. They come out and they play the same cover 3. They come out and they play the same Seattle scheme, and they just rush 4. But today, Seattle actually came out, and they did some different things. And I thought the energy of this team came from that front, came from those sacks, and came from those plays made by the defense. So that was huge in this game. Trey Flowers had a big penalty at the end that almost cost them the game. That was definitely a penalty, no doubt about it. But I didn't think he particularly played a great game. Other than that, I think everybody on the Seahawks defense, I didn't really notice anyone playing that poorly. But again, I think it just all comes from the front where they were the difference in this game for the Seahawks. And their ability to win up front won them the game. Because the Eagles would have won this game if their offensive line dominated with Wentz or with McCown. Because that's the number one thing I said in the preview. If the Eagles win up front on both sides of the ball, which they won up front on defense but weren't able to win up front on offense. And because the Seahawks were able to win up front on defense, that's the reason they won. As great as Russell Wilson played, as great as DK Metcalf played, if they don't win that battle versus the run of the Eagles and versus the pass and getting after McCown, they lose this game. Because then, no matter what, the Eagles, they would have been good enough with their scheming offensively to be able to make some plays. To the Eagles side of things, again, I thought Miles Sanders, he continues to prove that he is going to be a very special running back in this league. I think he's going to be a very good player. I had him as one of my top running backs in the draft. I kind of had Jacobs 1A and him 1B, and I thought he had a great last half of the season. He played a really, really good game. He had that unfortunate drop, which was massive in the game, and I kind of feel bad for him for that. But Miles Sanders had a lot of really nice runs. He was the most explosive playmaker for the Eagles in this game and through the last half of the season. Boston Scott also came up with a few nice plays. Zach Ertz, credit him for fighting through injury and still playing. Dallas Goedert had 7 catches for 73 yards. Pretty good game. But again, no Carson Wentz, and you couple that with guys, no receivers. No receivers that can go down the field. No receivers really of any talent. Like a lot of guys coming off of the bench. A lot of guys coming off the street, to be honest. The Eagles were all tight ends and running backs. And they made this a game. I thought Fletcher Cox was absolutely unbelievable in this game. I mean, he made so many plays. He forced a fumble. He had multiple. He didn't have a sack in this game, but he forced a ton of pressure on Russell Wilson. He was amazing versus the run. He dominated his individual matchup, and Fletcher Cox was great. Malcolm Jenkins also had an excellent game in this one. I had a sack in the game, 7 tackles, some blitzes that kind of forced some pressure on Russell Wilson. Good coverage overall. And they did lose Brandon Graham for a big portion of this game as well. I will credit the corners of the Eagles for being competitive, because I did think the Eagles were taking far too many chances with some of these blitzes, but they ended up paying off because the actual corners of the Eagles played pretty well in man-to-man coverage when they asked them to do that, and Schwartz got very aggressive because he knew McCown was their quarterback, not Wentz, so the game plan had to change. The defense had to make more plays, and the corners were in there and they were competitive, so I credit them for that. But it did end up costing them because DK Metcalf, he made those plays. He made the touchdown play, the third down play, to win the game. Those 2 plays, playing that man-to-man, sending extra pressure, it did end up costing the Eagles, but it also allowed them to stay in the game. So you take the good with the bad for the Eagles with the corner play. But for a unit that's been playing or has been criticized all year and are also undermanned, I thought they played a good game. So overall, this is a relatively even game. What I want to get from this game, though, before I get to the comments and then go shift to the other game, this game was between the 2 worst playoff teams of this year. These, to me, I know you might be a Seahawks fan. I don't mean to offend you. You might be an Eagles fan. I don't mean to offend you. But given all the injuries, given the talent level of these 2 teams, this was the worst. These are the 2 worst teams in the entire field. Whether that was AFC, NFC, 6 seed to 1 seed, these are the 2 worst teams in my opinion, 2 least talented teams. They have tons and tons of heart, very good coaches, and good quarterbacks. But when you're speaking offense, defense, talent-wise, these are 2 pretty bad teams. And honestly, what was running through my mind in a portion in this game was the Cowboys screwed up so bad, man. The Cowboys. Oh, the Cowboys. As my water bottle drops. Just, wow. The Cowboys. So disappointing. Congratulations to the Seahawks. They move on. I think it's going to be tough next week versus the Packers. But honestly, man, Packers, Seahawks, that's going to be a good game. Because I think if the Seahawks can get a little healthier over the course of this week, I think that'll be a good game. Because Russell Wilson, he'll make plays versus the secondary. You know you still have your receivers there. And it might end up being a shootout between Rodgers and Wilson, and that would be epic. I think it could possibly be a shootout. And I do think the Seahawks actually don't match up too poorly with the Green Bay Packers. I think that will be a good game. I think I'm leaning Packers right now. It's also in Lambeau Field. I think the Packers are the healthier team. They have the week to scout them. They have the week to do that, all that. But if they could supplement their passing game with a little bit of a rushing game, which we've seen Green Bay is not so good versus the run, and they can hit some plays down the field offensively, and Russell Wilson, we know he'll make his magic, I think the Seahawks have a chance next week. I think they have a decent chance to win next week. As for the Eagles, I think you just move forward to next year. I think the Eagles will be a good team next year. I think they'll probably add a couple players, and they got to get a lot of guys back from injury. I'm not exactly sure who or is leaving in free agency or who they need to sign, but I still think they have a very good foundation on both sides of the ball, and they should be in the mix to win the NFC East next year, along with the Cowboys, and maybe even possibly the Giants. We'll have to see about them. But I think for the NFC East, they are the clear-cut best organization by a freaking mile, and I credit them a ton for their toughness, mental toughness, physical toughness. They have the best coach in the division. They should be right there next year in the NFC East again. But we'll see how the Seahawks-Philadelphia Eagles or Seahawks-Packers matchup goes, because I'm intrigued by it. I'm thinking about it. Maybe I'll get more thoughts as we get to the end of this video. Let's go to the comment section, guys. If you haven't already, make sure you do Gronk Spike the like button. And if you're new, subscribe to The Bottom Line View for more NFL videos just like this. All right. I'm going to get to the Saints game in a little bit. I know that was the big game today, the great game today, really. But before I do, let's get to the comments. So, what's going on, Mr. Mike? He says the Seattle defense has to be better. Party says, everybody's laughing at Turtle. Poor Turtle. I feel bad for you, Turtle. But at least Brady and Breeze can have some beers tonight. Turtle says, Ventress says, best wild card game ever. I assume you're talking about the Vikings and Saints. Not sure. I could be wrong. Tyson says, Skull. Kevin Durkant says, Seahawks aren't a Super Bowl team. I would agree with that. Sorry, Seahawks fans. Imagine Madden says Kevin, an AFC team is going to win the Super Bowl. Avery says Metcalf was the 9th receiver taken. That makes it even crazier. That's insane. 9th? 9th? Yeah, again, going back to my rant last night about the Patriots. The Patriots should have took Metcalf. Just saying. I'm jealous of you Seahawks fans for that. Ultra says Turtle. They would have kicked a field goal, then Breeze would have choked in overtime. Turtle is now turned on his favorite quarterback, Drew Brees, and is turning on Saints fans as we speak. A Human says Clowney and Ertz are beasts. Also, credit to Clowney, despite the hit that some people will say is dirty. He played through injury as well. Credit Clowney's a monster. Clowney's a monster. I kind of hate them, though, because I wanted to see Carson Wentz play, but regardless, Clowney's a monster. Kevin says, Metcalf, I believe Chris Collinsworth said he was the 9th receiver taken. Yeah, the interesting thing is I already said the Packers, redo. The Eagles and the Saints, redo again. Eagles and the Seahawks. There we go. Two worst teams in the playoffs, in my opinion. The Packers are the worst bye team maybe ever. So you have the two worst teams in the playoffs. One of them was going to go to Green Bay. And now the Seahawks are going to play the worst bye team I've personally ever seen in my life, I think. I'm not saying the Packers suck. I just think when you compare them to other bye teams in the past, specifically in recent history, they might be the worst I've ever seen. That's not saying I don't think the Packers could or will win next week, because I probably will predict them to win. But it's kind of interesting. And the funny thing about this is, the NFC, everybody was talking about the NFC all regular season long. Everybody was talking about how loaded the NFC was. That's not been the case. I mean, the AFC is much better than the NFC at the end of the day. The 6 teams that made the AFC playoffs, a lot better than the 6 teams that made the NFC playoffs. I will say this right now. I'm not trying to discount the Vikings. I would be pretty surprised if the 49ers did not go to the Super Bowl. I would be pretty surprised. I think if they lose, they're going to lose to the Vikings. I would be pretty surprised. I think the 49ers will be the team to go to the Super Bowl now. Based off what I saw Seattle do versus Philadelphia without Carson Wentz, how does Seattle continue to play close games despite any competition? I mean, they could have played the 0-16 Miami Dolphins, 0-16 Lions. They'd still try and find a way to make the game entertaining. I credit the Seahawks for that. Most of the time they come out as winners, though. So that's also good. Ultra says, if the Packers play the Niners, they'll get absolutely dominated again. They are not a good matchup for the 49ers. I would agree with that. A Human says, Packers are the most overrated team in the entire NFL. Kevin Ercan says the Vikings and 49ers would both beat the Packers. Well, the Vikings can't seem to beat the Packers, so I don't know about that. What's up, robot guy? Seahawks defense is underrated, says A Human. Zach says, hey Mitch, what's up, Zach? Robot says, what a wild card weekend. Ventress says, Seahawks ain't going nowhere playing like that. Eagles still had a chance of a comeback with a sub QB with a laugh face 100. And I don't know what that face is, but yeah. I think you could look at it that way, certainly. But the Seahawks, no matter who they play, though, they always seem to make it a game. Seahawks are never out of a game, no matter who their competition is. Whether it's good or bad. Good or bad. I mean, every game's close. And I think part of that's Russell Wilson, part of that's Pete Carroll, part of that's the way they play. I think going into next week, if the Seahawks want to beat the Packers, they need to commit more to Russell Wilson. He is the best player. If you're going to win the Super Bowl, Seahawks, you need to throw the ball 40 times a game. You need to beat Patriots and Tom Brady 2014. You need to throw the ball 40 times a game, every game. That's how you're going to win. It's not going to be you running the ball. Okay, Marshawn Lynch isn't Marshawn Lynch from 2013, 2014. You need to pass the ball more. Schottenheimer is not a very good offensive coordinator. I've said it before. He has a good run game, and I understand that's a big part of what the Seahawks' identity is, run the football, play defense. Well, your running backs are hurt. Your defense is average at best. You need to rely on Russell Wilson. The strength of the Seahawks is Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and the receivers. And I would throw in like Hollister. And I honestly think, I understand you don't want to get Russell Wilson hit all the time. It's the playoffs. We saw today, even when he doesn't have anyone open, he'll just scramble and run. I mean, I said this before the playoffs. I said this in the preview versus the Eagles. I think if they would have just passed the ball 40 times, the Seahawks would have won by double digits. This would have been like 24-9. And I get that the Eagles' D-line is dominant, and the Eagles' D-line is dangerous getting after the quarterback, and you are on the road. But when you ran the ball, it was going for literally no gain. Marshawn Lynch had 6 rushes for 7 yards. Travis Homer had 11 attempts for 12 yards. If the Seahawks want to go somewhere, they need to put the ball in the hands of arguably the best quarterback in the game. You think the Chiefs are going to go out next week and say, oh, we're going to run the ball just because? No, they're going to say, Mahomes, you're going to tear this Texan secondary apart. Especially when you know the Eagles' worst part of their team is their secondary. Now, next week, you might look at it differently. Like a person like me would look at it differently because you're saying, okay, the Packers' weakness defensively is run defense. But at the same time, I don't want to run the ball with off-the-street Marshawn Lynch when I could give it to Russell Wilson to throw it to Tyler Lockett. Imagine Madden says, Kevin, imagine thinking the Packers are better than any AFC playoff team. Zach is sad about his Bills. I'm sorry, Zach. Turtle said, AC is paying Mitch to talk about the Eagles like this. I wish he was. Dream Key says, people should give Doug Peterson more credit. Great coach. Great coach. Had a good game plan. I thought a lot of times, you know, he really schemed up some plays where guys were wide open. I mean, you can't see it because of the TV view, but there were just guys wide open sometimes versus that defense. And this is also the thing that I hate about the Seahawks. I mean, the Seahawks frustrate me because as much as I think that they are not that talented, I feel like they do not actually maximize their talent well enough. It's a weird thing because Pete Carroll somehow gets it done, but he also, it should be better. Like, that I've talked about the Russell Wilson in the throwing thing, but at the same time, defensively, you're playing the Eagles. Okay, think about the Eagles. Who's their receivers they have? Who's the receivers they have? They have, I don't even know. Greg Ward was the only receiver in this game to catch a pass. And they actually, I will credit them for this. They played more man coverage today. But on some of those plays, there's Dallas Goedert wide open. Because they're tearing apart the zone defense. The only plays that the Eagles had were versus their typical zone coverage. When they actually went to man, they were shutting the Eagles down because they had no one to throw the ball to because they have receivers that were working a different job last week. They weren't NFL players. Mike says McCown played better than Wentz. Wentz played like 4 plays, so I don't know how you can actually say that. Coach said Collinsworth says that Brady might go to the Chargers. LOL. Eagles all heart. Cowboys can learn from the Eagles. Let's hope that the Cowboys get a coach that will give them the heart that Doug Peterson gives the Eagles. Mike says, imagine thinking you know what Minnesota team's going to show up. Possible NFC Championship game, says Mr. Wong. Vikings at Seahawks. It is possible. How many are in the fantasy draft for Madden? I don't know. I'll advertise it right now. Guys, if you want to be, I'm thinking of starting a online franchise Madden League for the Bottom Line View. If you want to join, I already have a list of about 8 or 9 people that want to join. If you have PS4 Madden, you could play with me, you could play with the other people in the Bottom Line View, and we will set it up. Let me know. Imagine Madden donated $1.99. He says, hey, can I join the Madden 20 franchise league, please? Yeah, if you want. Anybody can join, as long as you give me a heads up. Michael says, Saints starting to be choke artists. They play great all season and poop in the playoffs. Guys, there's so many comments. I'm trying to go through every comment as much as possible. I'm so far behind. Mike says they are overrated, but let's be real. Their defense is trash. I won 500 on the Seahawks. They're not beating the Packers. Rick Badboy says Eagles have to cut Jeffrey and get more receivers. Oh, my throat is like, sorry for that. My throat is like all stuffy. Probably from watching the Eagles offense today. Eagles have to cut Jeffrey. So, yeah, I think they would be better off moving on from Jeffrey. I mean, he didn't look like the same receiver this year, whether he was healthy or not. He didn't look like the same guy. He really doesn't have much speed left in the tank. And so I think, yeah, they should. I agree with that. Kevin Durkant says they didn't have Dalvin Cook and Adam Thielen wasn't 100%. Are you talking about the last game versus the Packers? Zach says, I hope Brady doesn't go to the Colts. It would look weird. A legend like him going to a longtime rival, it's like Thurman Thomas when he went to the Dolphins. It just didn't look right. No offense, Zach, but I think Tom Brady is on a different class from Thurman Thomas. Regardless, though, I get your sentiment, and thank you for the comment. If he went to the Colts, though, I think football-wise, it's a great fit. But in terms of would Brady actually do it, no chance. You have to remember that the Colts are the team that was the team that started Deflategate. So there's honestly no chance that happens. Rip the playoff bracket. Agreed. There were some wacky things that happened in these playoffs, though. I will say that. Sir Dilly says Vikings played like they were going to lose against the Packers. They would have played like they did. If they would have played like they did today versus the Packers, they would have won by 10. All right. Well, maybe we'll see that in the NFC Championship game. That's possible. Imagine Madden also with 199 says, Ultra, stop being a clown and watch football again. Party says, passes caught, Diggs, sideline, touchdown, Vikings win it. Party says, Vikings in the Super Bowl. David says, we have no money to improve or sign players. All went to Wentz. All right. I don't think you're many players away, though, from being a contender in the NFC. But the Eagles need to fix whatever is going wrong with these injuries, because this is 2 to 3 to 4 years in a row where this team has been injured too much, too often. I get it every once in a while where teams get hits by the injury bug, but you need to get a better training staff. You need to have a better training schedule. Something needs to be fixed here. Ultra says DK Metcalf equals stud. Bengals are better than the Saints this decade, says Party. I don't think I agree. Sir Dilly says Vikings can beat the Niners if Kirk and the offensive line doesn't suck. Leave my Cowboys alone. Ultra, I feel the same way about 2007 as you feel about 28-3. Zeus says Brady is not the GOAT statistically. It's Drew. The GOAT Drew looked real good today. The Greek Freak says Niners versus Hawks Part 3. Niners win and avenge their loss to the Ravens in South Beach. Interesting. Michael says, I hope Brady stays with the Patriots because he's awful. Ultra says, Never mind. Ultra's just spitting nonsense right now. Run CMC is in the chat. Abel says, who will play in the Super Bowl and who will win the Super Bowl? I think right now prediction is Chiefs-Niners, but it could be Ravens-Niners. Those are my 2 options I got. Wide receivers drafted before Metcalf. Thank you, Kevin. Marquise Brown, N'Keal Harry, Deebo Samuel, A.J. Brown, Mecole Hardman, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Paris Campbell, Andy Isabella. Those players are all decent. The best of them being, I think if you had to rank it, it's interesting how you'd rank it, though. Who would you rather have, A.J. Brown or Metcalf? It's tough. I think if you had to rank it right now, it would be Metcalf, Brown, or sorry, there's multiple Browns. A.J. Brown, Metcalf, Brown, A.J. Brown, who are on the same team. Marquise Brown. Ooh, this one's tough. I think Hardman. Oh, no, Samuel, then Hardman, then Harry, then Isabella, then Campbell, then Whiteside. That would be my rankings. And, of course, McLaurin is not in there either. He would be in the top 3. Taysom Hill's a frigging beast. How do you join? I guess you're asking about the Madden League. You just tell me. Aaron says, I'm tired of people saying that Brady will switch teams. He's not going to switch teams because if he did, it would take longer for that team to go to the Super Bowl. I don't think he'll switch teams. That's my prediction. Read the very first comment. Was that the one where you said you are superior to Kevin Durant? Ethan says, who will win, Niners or Vikings? Right now I'm leaning to Niners, but that's without any research whatsoever about these games. All right, let's get to the Vikings game, because Vikings fans have been waiting a while for me to get to that game. Let me know also if you're a Vikings fan right now in this chat. Let me know. If we only get that many people, Turtle, then sure. I would hopefully get more people, though. All right, let's get to the other game. Vikings, Saints, 26-20, overtime. Vikings take it. Shocker, thriller. They stun the Saints. Period. End of story. I didn't think the Vikings had a hope in you-know-where to win this game. I didn't think they had a hope to win this game. Actually, not a hope. That's exaggerating. I thought the Saints had an 85% chance of winning this game. I'd give the Vikings, 15% to win this game. And they won. And everything went right for them to win. And the Saints, straight up, did not play well to win this game. I mean, all the credit in the world to the Vikings. The Saints, it just didn't feel like they put their best foot forward in this game. It felt like the Vikings had every answer. It felt like the Vikings were out coaching the Saints. It felt like they out-efforted the Saints. It felt like they outplayed the Saints. Straight up. Straight up. At everywhere. I mean, I thought they out-quarterbacked the Saints. I thought they outran the Saints. I thought their receivers out-received the Saints. I thought their defense out-defensed the Saints. I thought their kicker out-kickered the Saints. Everything. I mean, I don't think there was one area where I could say, you know what? Saints were better in that area. And this was only a 6-point game. This was an overtime game. And I can't say one area where I was like, Saints were better. Saints were better. No, not one area. Not one area. Vikings, Kirk Cousins. You like that? You like that. Okay, biggest reason I wanted the Vikings to win this game, I was cheering for the Vikings. Openly, I will admit it, I was cheering for the Vikings. Reason why I was cheering for the Vikings, I wanted to see Kirk Cousins prove people wrong because I've heard it for year after year after year after year after year after decade. I mean, Kirk Cousins, he sucks. He's overrated. He can't win a big game. He can't win in prime time. He just can't do it. He's not clutch. What did he do in this game? He went to New Orleans in the dome. He said, you like that. And then he beat Drew Brees in Drew Brees' dome. He outplayed Drew Brees, and he said, you like that, and won. 19 for 31, 242 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Sacked 2 times, 96.4 rating. He made some really nice throws. He made a couple of really nice throws under pressure. And he balled out when he needed to. And it wasn't perfect. It could have been a little better, in my opinion. But when he needed to deliver, he delivered. And that's why you pay this guy. That's why you pay Kirk Cousins. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. If you're the Vikings, you made the right decision. Whether you won this game, lost this game, you made the right decision to move on from Case Keenum and sign Kirk Cousins because what was your other choice? Okay, think about where the Vikings were 2 years ago in 2017. They were a team that went to the NFC Championship game with the number 2 seed in the NFC. They had Case Keenum as their quarterback. We know what Case Keenum has turned out to be in the NFL. Okay to be a backup, not a starter, right? They went to the NFC Championship game. They were pretty much thinking in their head, we're a quarterback away from going to the Super Bowl and maybe even winning the Super Bowl. What were the options out there? We're not going to draft a quarterback because we need to win now. We need to go after somebody that we know is the real deal right now. So they go out and they pay Kirk Cousins, and whether or not it was too much money or not, it was the right decision because you need to try and win the Super Bowl now because you need to maximize your window, which is what the Vikings did. And I think it was the right decision. You know, Vikings fans were tearing it apart last year, throughout the offseason, all the way until this game. And now they're going to switch their tune, and they're going to say, I love Kirk Cousins. Well, Kirk Cousins delivered. And credit Kirk Cousins not only for playing a good football game, but filtering the noise out of his head. A lot of quarterbacks, a lot of players, you know, it's not easy to do when, let's be honest, I don't think a lot of Vikings fans love Kirk Cousins. I don't think Kirk Cousins is the highest selling jersey for the Vikings right now. I don't think so. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. I think a lot of Vikings fans, they're okay with him, but I don't think a lot of people are like, you know what, Kirk Cousins is my favorite player. I think a lot of people didn't really like him. And until this game, I don't think a lot of Vikings fans liked him. And he filtered out the noise from his fan base, the pressure on him, because he knew there was pressure on him because he was paid to do that. And there was pressure on him from the media because everybody with these incorrect assessments of his career saying he's not good because he was on a bad Redskins team and made the playoffs with them, and they lost in the playoffs, and they lost to almost always better teams in prime time. There's not been many times that Kirk Cousins has lost to a worse team, right? Kirk Cousins usually beats the teams that I feel like his team should beat. And also, you know, I'm not going to say Kirk Cousins is one of the 5 best quarterbacks in football. You're not expecting Russell Wilson or Pat Mahomes. You're expecting a good quarterback. He can make some throws, which he did in this game. He can escape some pressure. He's a smart guy. And I also credit the Vikings for continuing to believe in him because you can clearly see that the players wanted to win this game not just for themselves, but it also seemed like in that speech at the end of the game and the You Like That 2.0, they were really happy for Kirk Cousins because they know how much pressure this guy has been under. This guy has been under so much duress from everybody. And I'm just happy to see Kirk Cousins win the playoff game. That's it. Dalvin Cook was amazing in this game for the most part. He didn't, he had 3.4 yards per carry, but he touched the rock 28 times on the ground. He had 2 touchdowns, 3 catches, 36 yards. He's been one of the 5 best running backs this season and had another good game here and far outplayed Alvin Kamara. Adam Thielen is a baller. A baller. The biggest matchup in the game was him versus Marshawn Lattimore. And Adam Thielen outplayed Marshawn Lattimore. He schooled Marshawn Lattimore to the point to where later in the game, they stopped putting Lattimore on him. And Lattimore was crying on the sidelines. Thielen was beating him one-on-one. Thielen was turning him inside out. Thielen was beating him for deep balls. Thielen was beating him short. Thielen was beating him over the middle. Thielen was beating him outside. Thielen was just awesome in this game. And I don't think Kirk Cousins wins this game or Kirk Cousins carries the Vikings to a victory without the play of Adam Thielen, who was awesome, and he's been injured for a lot of this season. But he again proved and again put himself back in the conversation of elite receivers in the league. Because he's an excellent route runner, and he showed he also has that downfield game as well. 7 catches, 129 yards. Had the biggest catch of today, and another huge catch down the field earlier in the game. Kyle Rudolph the reindeer. Throw it up to him in the end zone. I know you guys want me to talk about the possible interference. Yes, possibly offensive pass interference. But I mean, how many times have we seen that? How many times have we seen a receiver push off? I mean, it seems to happen at least once a game. I think Michael Irvin scored 80 touchdowns doing that. So I don't know. It's debatable. I think if it would have been challenged, it wouldn't have been reversed. That's how I feel about it. Now, I think it should have been challenged, though, by the NFL. The NFL should have taken a look at it. I think that's an error. That's the error on the play, is not taking a look at it. But I don't think they would have reversed it, personally. Defensively, Everson Griffin was great. 1.5 sacks. Danielle Hunter. I always say Daniel. I don't know why. Danielle Hunter. 1.5 sacks. Forced fumble. He played great too. He had the huge forced fumble on Drew Brees, which a little bit on that in a bit. And the strategy to move Everson Griffin to the inside as a rusher to get inside pressure at Drew Brees in a Justin Tuck, Michael Bennett-esque way. Credit Zimmer for this win. Zimmer outcoached Sean Payton, who I've said many times is the best offensive coach in the league. Zimmer outcoached him. Zimmer is one of the best defensive coaches in the league. He came into New Orleans, and he had a perfect plan for stopping Michael Thomas. He had a perfect plan for stopping the Saints' attack and getting after and pressuring Drew Brees, and he did that. And the guys performed up front, whether it was Griffin or Hunter. They performed. Eric Kendricks playing through injury. Great performance. I thought Xavier Rhodes still is not good. Gave up a couple big plays down the field. Anthony Harris is one of the most underrated players in the NFL. Huge interception down the field. Credit Holton Hill and Trey Waynes. They played well as well. Now to the Saints. I hate to say I told you so, guys. I hate to say it. Do I hate to say it, though? No, I'm just kidding. I like Drew Brees. See, I don't want to come on here and say I was told you so. I would have rather Drew Brees throw for 350 and 4 touchdowns. But I told you so. I don't know what you want to say. I think at a certain point in this game, I think Taysom Hill should have been playing quarterback for the Saints. That's how poorly Drew Brees played during this game at times. Taysom Hill should have been playing quarterback. And Taysom Hill was unstoppable. Taysom Hill was unreal in this game. Taysom Hill might be the best player in the league. 1-for-1, 50 yards. Yo, Taysom Hill needs to be on the top 100 players of the NFL this year. If he's not, I'm banning that list. 1-for-1, 50 yards. 4 rushes, 50 yards. That one rush was ridiculous. He caught 2 passes for 25 and a touchdown. This man had over 100 yards. Their running game was non-existent. Credit the Vikings for that. And the Vikings basically said they dared them to run the ball. They dared the Saints to run the ball. When they did, they were still in pass defense. So basically what they did was they were taking the pass away 100%. If you want to run, go ahead and run it. But they were still physical and good enough up front to take away the run well enough. Alvin Kamara, bro, disappeared. Disappearing act. Great defense on him. He had 8 catches for 34 yards. And that's what I was talking about in the preview on the Vikings and Saints. I felt like if the Vikings could take away the BS throws, the scheme throws, and all the little things that the Saints do to Alvin Kamara underneath, they would have a chance in this game. That's what happened. Michael Thomas was okay, but he certainly wasn't great. He was double teamed a lot. And this was one of the things I said week after week about the Saints during the regular season. If they don't get that second receiver to step up, they needed that second guy. And Ted Ginn, 1 catch for 18 yards. Deontay Harris had 1 catch for 50, and that was the Taysom Hill throw. Other than that, 3 receivers caught a pass. Jared Cook, tight end, caught passes. Josh Hill caught passes. Taysom Hill caught passes. Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray caught passes. But other than Michael Thomas, 2 receivers caught a pass. 1 pass. Not more than 1. No receiver other than Michael Thomas caught more than 1 ball in this game. And Michael Thomas was limited to 70 yards. That's why I say the Vikings had a great plan for Michael Thomas. And they forced Brees to go elsewhere with the ball. And it's very, very difficult to scheme ways to stop Michael Thomas because Sean Payton is so creative in getting him the ball. And Drew Brees is so accurate that it's difficult to scheme away Michael Thomas. That's why he had so many receptions this year. But you saw that the Saints, because they threw the ball so many times to Michael Thomas, overly reliant on Michael Thomas. And I'm not going to blame Michael Thomas for this loss at all. Because other players, it's a team sport, you need to step up. I think, honestly, part of the reason that the Saints lost was, and their offense played so poorly, is actually that the Vikings did what the Dallas Cowboys did a couple seasons ago. And they said, Brees, you need to throw over the top. And when he did, it was ineffective. The only downfield pass the Saints connected on was a Taysom Hill pass. That's it. And that's the reason Sean Payton puts Taysom Hill in to throw. Because he's the only guy that can actually throw it down the field. Defensively, I thought Cam Jordan had another good game. Came up with a big play when he needed to, big sack. Demario Davis was very good in the game. Janoris Jenkins had a massive fumble in this game. Otherwise, I thought Lattimore had one of his weaker games of the season. The secondary in general didn't have a very good game. Yeah, I think the Saints, they showed their true weaknesses. Their running game wasn't effective as it needed to be. They didn't have a downfield passing attack. Their second receiver didn't step up, and their secondary didn't play well enough. Those were really the 4 weaknesses of the Saints. If you had to say, of the top 5 weaknesses, what are the 4 biggest ones? Those are the 4 biggest ones, and they all reared their head in this game. And the Vikings, many people will say this, including myself. They're as talented as any team left in the playoffs, It's just a matter of how they execute, how they game plan, and how they play. The Vikings have a chance versus everybody. And I said that coming into the playoffs because they're one of the most talented teams in the playoffs. But and Zimmer gave them that extra fuel to be able to win this game with a great game plan. So there you go. That's my thoughts on that game. Let's get to the comment section. Why is everyone saying the Patriots? Why is everyone still on the Patriots game? I've already moved on from that. Okay. Okay, where did we leave off? Okay, let's start with this. Ultra says Kirk Cousins earned his money. A Human says Rhodes played good. He had a couple of plays where he was out of position. Run CMC at $100 on the Vikings. Kev says Seahawks will win the Super Bowl. Robot says Thielen and Kirk were awesome. Singh says Kirk did win a primetime game versus the Cowboys this year. Chewy says Seahawks will win it all. Ultra says Mitch really dislikes Breeze. If Breeze had the stats Brady had last night, the title of the video would be Breeze comes up small. Okay, this is how I feel. I'll say it again. Saints, #1 ranked offensive line in the entire NFL. Saints, #1 receiver in the entire NFL. Saints, top 10 running back. Saints, top 10 tight end. Saints, top 3 play caller. Brady, okay? Top 30 running back. Top 30 receiver. Top 1,000 tight end. And top 15 offensive line. So don't compare Brady and Breeze. It's hard to compare. They're both old. That's where the comparisons end. Does Breeze do things better than Brady at this point? Yes, he does. He's more mobile, and he's always been deadly accurate. Brady still has a much stronger arm than him, and they're both very intelligent. So I think if you put Brady with the Saints, I think they win. Because we've seen the last 3 years, when the game's on the line, man, Breeze is lost. He's lost. Breeze has lost to the Vikings twice in the last 3 years. Breeze lost to the Rams, and in all of those games, he did not play well. Every single one. I'm not lying. Am I lying? I just don't get when people are going to hate on Brady. Everyone will forget about Breeze, though. You know, Breeze, whatever. Is what it is, I guess. I think that's just the bias of the Patriot hater club. And I don't hate Breeze. I don't even understand. I'm just trying to point out the biases. 2019 Niners or 2016 Falcons. I think we need to see the rest of the Niners season. Dream Key says people need to keep the same energy with Breeze as every other quarterback. There you go. If Kirk Cousins played the way Breeze did, Kirk Cousins would have lost his job. Zach says it sounds like Cousins was getting the Steve Young treatment, but now he, like Steve Young, is proving doubters wrong. Let's see if he does like Steve in 94 and finishes the deal. I will say he doesn't have the team Steve had in 94, but, we'll see. Who's better, Cousins or Jimmy? Ooh, good question. I think they're like the same, dude. Jimmy is in a better offense, but I would say Cousins has better weapons. So that's tough. Run CMC, we get it. We get it. A Human says BLV has the best fan base out of everybody. I agree. I'm a little biased, though. Kevin Urquhart says Diggs Thielen is the best receiver duo in the NFL. If you disagree, you should feel bad. Zach says that was a great catch by that guy, number 14 on the Seahawks today. It was amazing. It was clutch, too. It's what sealed the game. That guy is DK Metcalf. That's going to be a big matchup in that game. Vikings defensive line versus Niners offensive line. Kyron says, I think of all the teams that played this weekend, Minnesota looked the most impressive. Would you agree? Yes. Yes. Michael says Taysom is the future and Harris better get wide receiver next year. I think right now, though, Harris is a little bit of a gadget player. Phenomenal returner, though. Jesse says, not going to lie, I feel bad for a lot of Saints fans suffering 3 straight losses at the final second. Oh yeah, it must suck for Saints fans, for sure. But, I mean, their teams just didn't come out. In all of those games, whether you believe the Saints were screwed, whether you believe whatever you believe, they made too many mistakes in those games, and to make it that they should, that they should have moved on. I mean, they just didn't play well enough. They didn't execute well enough. I don't mean it in terms of like it's I think the way you're looking at it is it's cheap, or like I'm just saying it's an easy throw, and Brady does it as well. But what I also said, if you watch the preview this week with the Titans and the Patriots, I said if the Titans take away those throws, that will help them win. I think with those quarterbacks who are very reliant on a lot of those throws, and it's schemed up very well, if that's the first read in the play to throw to Kamara or throw to White, and they have to move off that read and go somewhere else, it makes it more difficult because then they have to hold on to the ball longer, the pass rush can get there longer, and it throws off their timing and rhythm, which both quarterbacks are based off of. If you take away White and that's his first read, that takes a split second. He has to turn and look at a different receiver and buy more time, same as Breeze with Kamara. Or if you limit those yardage-wise, maybe he'll catch it, but you tackle him, that's going to be way better than letting them run for easy yardage. Those are easy designed plays within their offense, and that's part of the reason that McDaniels and Sean Payton are looked at as such great offensive coaches, because they give those quarterbacks easy throws at times. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say that it's cheap or that only Breeze gets these throws. No, I'm trying to say that is how you beat them, because you force them to do other things that aren't easy for them. Why does everyone keep saying the Patriots? Did I miss something? Oh, everyone comment their favorite team. Okay. Oh, I missed some comments. I missed some comments. I'm trying to scroll back up. Hot Take said some NFL analysts said the Saints were going to blow out the Vikes. Yeah, I'm happy I took the points. Jesse says Drew Brees isn't who he once was. He's been lucky to have Michael Thomas. He was taken away and Brees couldn't do anything. Brady's age was more noticeable because he didn't have Michael Thomas. Booger. Young Citrus said, you're right. My Saints played poorly. At least you can admit that. That's what I said yesterday about the Patriots. They didn't play well enough. They just lost. They were not good enough. I don't hate either of them. I think I'm actually I don't know who I'm cheering for, but I don't know. I don't know. I have this like weird feeling I kind of want Rodgers to like win the Super Bowl. I don't know why. But I also want the 49ers to win the Super Bowl. What are my rankings for teams I want to see win the Super Bowl? I'm asking this to myself because I'm actually intrigued to know what my answer is. I think number 1 is the 49ers because then I would look like I predicted it even though I didn't. Number 2, the Vikings. Number 2. Number 3, the Packers. Number 4, the Chiefs. Number 5, the Titans. Number 6, the Texans. Number 7, I don't know. Seahawks, and then Ravens. I just think Ravens would be too predictable. I don't want to see that. Nothing really against the Ravens either. Like, I always say I don't hate the Ravens. I respect the Ravens, but I also don't like the Ravens. You know? I don't know. I don't really have a team that I just downright would hate to see win the Super Bowl. But those are probably my rankings, I guess. I don't know. I think I only have like 3 teams that I'd like want to see to win the Super Bowl. The others I just don't care. Jesse ranks the quarterbacks left. Mahomes, Wilson, Rodgers, Jackson, Watson, Garoppolo, Cousins, Tannehill. My rankings would be, I mean, based off right now, I think you have to put Jackson first. Between him and Mahomes, and then I would have Wilson 3, Rodgers 4, Watson 5. 6, I'd have. 8 would be Tannehill. 6, I'd have Jimmy. Maybe. Yeah, I think 6, I'd have Jimmy. 7, I'd have Cousins. 8, I'd have Tannehill. Zach with the wrestling question. I think Roger Staubach was better than Bart Starr. And to answer that question, who do I think was more influential? I would have to go with Gorgeous George. That's an interesting question. Robot Guy says, Titans, Vikings, bro, 100% accurate predictions. Have 6 seeds ever played in the Super Bowl? I don't think so, but I don't know for sure. I did predict the Niners to win the NFC West. I also had them as one of the better teams in the NFC, but I did not predict them to win the Super Bowl. What's up, Carter? Yeah, I did have 49ers 12-4. That's pretty good. Wild Card weekend was awesome. Who do I think was better, Lawrence Taylor or Bruce Smith? Lawrence Taylor. Bruce Smith's great, though, but Lawrence Taylor. All right. I think I'm done for tonight. I will actually split up the Saints and the Seahawks videos. Saints and Seahawks, yeah. Those games, I'll split into 2 different recaps in case you missed them and you want to catch up to them or you want to watch it again or whatever you want to do there. I'll probably split them up and post them later. But thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for watching. It's been an awesome 2 days of Wild Card weekend. Thank you for supporting the channel, the live stream, the recaps. Really appreciate it. You guys have been absolutely awesome. And I wouldn't be doing these live videos if I knew that you guys, if you guys didn't show up. So thank you guys. The only reason I do these live videos is because I know that there's a great fan base who asks great questions, and it's a lot more fun to do them because you guys are always in the chat. So that's awesome. Thank you guys. If you haven't already, Gronk spike the like button. Subscribe to the channel. If you are new, it's Mitch. Peace out.